All right. Yeah. Well, thanks for being here, everybody, especially I know Power. For those that aren't familiar with us, this is the start to our BSUG lecture series, which has been going for some time now. It's our building simulation users group, primarily focused at architects, engineers, on how we can move the field forward in terms of architectural intelligence and simulation within design. So where we are is right in the corner of this room, downtown in Boise. Who are we? What do we do? And how do we help Idaho Power, who's sponsoring this? We are a research branch of the Department of Architecture. And I'm gonna change settings really quick.
Is it still giving you the doorbell notification?
It is. So I'm gonna turn the sound off when participants join, so I'm less frazzled. There we go. All right, I think we're good now. So we have students here in the room, Craig, Isabel, and we've got Joseph sitting outside as well. A blend of different majors, and they benefit from this lecture series as well, because that's kind of what our main function is education and outreach, and these guys learning and then taking that into the workforce, which is great. And we're all about education, outreach, and technical support for high performance energy efficient buildings, right? We don't want people living in caves. We want comfortable buildings that are well run. So Dylan, you want to move to the next slide? So just a couple of notes. Here's our current team, and I'm very excited for, I believe, at our next BSUG, if not the one after, Farnaz will be joining us. She'll be our new research scientist coming to us from Texas A&M, where she's finishing up her PhD in building sciences. Dylan is now a research scientist too, so happy to have him. He's got my right arm here. And then a suite of students, and we've got another student joining us this summer, Lindo Martinez, who also runs Studio Boise down here. That's great. Want to move to the next, Dylan? So with Idaho Power, we do a few different tasks. I'll just mention a couple of them today. We also have our Lunch and Learn series, in addition to our BSUG series. So the Lunch and Learn, rather than a general audience, is targeted at specific firms. And then we have our Energy Resource Library for anyone within Idaho Power service territory. Got Dent Power loggers. There's a new refrigeration controls testing going on right now. And it's using tools to track compressor power, do lighting energy, things like that. All right, Dylan, you want to move to the next? In terms of technical design assistance, if you're an architect or engineer tuning in, we can help educate you and bring knowledge to your firm. Right? We're not consultants, but we can help educate you so that you can do even better work, whether that's learning a new simulation program, doing analysis on daylighting, or looking into a new technology like luminaire level lighting controls or something like that. That's what Dylan and I and the graduate students here do. Is we do kind of the research and looking into emerging technologies so that you and your firm can adopt those and use them regularly. And it's free to Idaho Power Service customers. So if it's less than $2,000 worth of our time, just give us a call. We'll take that in. You can go to our website, idealboise.com, and there's a form there, or you can just ring us up and we'll try to answer whatever questions you may have. If it's slightly more of our time, if it's a phase 2 project, $2,000 to $4,000 worth of our time, then we'll draw up a scope to make sure that we're staying within bounds of what's needed, pass that on to Idaho Power for their approval. They turn that around very quickly to make sure that it's within the guidelines of their program, and then work on it. If it's more in depth, it's more than $4,000 worth of our time, then what we do is a cost share, where Idaho Power will pay 75% of our costs, and then 25% of the cost of our effort is covered by the owner or the client in this case. All right, Dylan, you want to move forward? Lunch and Learns. Once again, individual sessions. If you are interested in having a particular session, reach out to us, email us. We have a list of, I think it's close to 10 topics that we're offering this year, including a couple of new topics, things like ultraviolet radiation in rooftop units and things like that. Dylan's got some new lighting lectures as well. And then we've got VSUG as well, which you're here for, which is great. And then last one is the Energy Resource Library. So anytime you need to diagnose something happening in your building, figuring out where your energy is going, where you might have gaps in your envelope, we have the tools to help you with that. And even if you don't know exactly what you need, we can help you figure that out. So just let us know what you need and we'll move forward. So Dylan, I think you can go ahead and stop sharing now. We do have some online resources as well, so feel free to check out our design tools. But we're here to learn about what NEEA offers through their BetterBricks program. So I'm very excited to introduce to the group Suzi Asmus, Josh Pelham, and Stephen O'Gwyn. Suzi is a program manager and market transformation overseer for Residential HVAC. Josh Pelham, I get the pleasure of working with a lot, and he oversees the lab programs and is the market change manager and leading the BetterBricks program. And Stephen O'Gwyn is the program coordinator for residential and commercial HVAC programs. So excited to have all three of them to introduce what they've got to offer, free resources for those of us in the Northwest. And for those in person, we're having lunch here. You're also getting prizes. We have an outdoor smart plug and some LED Edison bulbs. So don't forget to mention that at the end so that you actually get something coming. And for those online, you're missing out, so you should join us in person. All right. Well, with that, I will pass it over to our NEEA team. Thanks.
Excellent. Thank you. All right. Everybody can see the screen and hear me. Is that correct? I can't see anybody now that I'm sharing. Everything good?
Yes.
Excellent. Well, I'm glad to hear you provided the food and prizes. That nothing gets folks to come together more than food and prizes. So thanks for that. We appreciate this opportunity to come speak with you all and share a little bit what we're doing over here at NEEA and BetterBricks. My name's Josh Pelham. Thank you, Dylan, or Damon rather, for the introduction. I am a market channel manager. And Suzi, Stephen, when we get to your portion of the presentation, go ahead and share a little bit about what you do as well. I think that was a great overview by Damon. I've done all sorts of stuff at NEEA. I've been at NEEA for a little over 10 years now. Well, a little over 10 and a half years, who's counting. And I've gotten to see all sorts of energy efficiency programs in just about every sector. It's been a great benefit for me in our work in market transformation. And currently, I am the channel manager for building professionals and trades, which over the last nearly 4 years has put me squarely in the commercial building sector. And I've been able to really dive into that work. A lot more on the engagement side and the kind of building owner, property manager side. And it's been fascinating. It's been one of my favorite projects, frankly, and sectors to work within so far. So I'm going to go ahead and scoot forward a little bit here, show you what we want to cover today. So I'll give you a little introduction about what NEEA is, what BetterBricks is for anybody who's not familiar with it. And then I'm going to hand this over to Suzi to talk a little bit about Semhub and some of our programmatic work and resources in strategic energy management. And when Suzi's done with a little introduction there and overview about our work in that area, we're going to go ahead and hand it off to Stephen, who's going to do a live demo of the energy management assessment tool that we've been operating for a couple of years now. And anybody who's done a live tool demo knows if it goes smoothly, that's fantastic, but you never know with that kind of stuff, but we're going to risk it. We're going for it. So let's start with the intro and a little bit about what we do. For those that are unfamiliar with NEEA, NEEA is a nonprofit organization That is a regional alliance of more than 140 Northwest utilities, one of which our major funders and partners is Idaho Power. So again, thank you for all of Idaho Power's support and having us here today. We do market transformation. We do energy efficiency market transformation focused in the 4 Northwest states. And we've been around since '96, so a while now. And what we do is we scan the market for promising energy efficiency technologies that are not getting adopted as quickly as we think they could. And when we identify those opportunities, we work with the supply chain in the market to figure out why they aren't getting adopted. What are those barriers? How do we address those barriers? How do we do that as a region? And we try to get those barriers removed. We over those 140 Northwest utilities, that represents about actually over 13 million energy consumers across those 4 Northwest states. So it's a lot of folks we're trying to serve. So BetterBricks. BetterBricks, what is BetterBricks? NEEA is in multiple sectors, really all sectors, as I mentioned, and our work in the commercial building sector is done primarily through BetterBricks. So through BetterBricks, BetterBricks has also been around a long time as well. I think nearly 20 years, not as old as NEEA, but it's been around a long time. So BetterBricks is essentially an infrastructure program that we have at NEEA, and it's a little bit distinct. I won't go into the details, but where many of our transformation programs come and go in the market, they're really designed to get in and establish, execute an intervention, remove those barriers I referred to, and then we move on to the next technology. BetterBricks is more of a platform for a portfolio of those programs in the commercial building sector to leverage, which I think is a great approach. It allows us to kind of invest in one centralized brand with awareness and cachet and trust that we build in the market over the years, and that gets to live on in perpetuity as our portfolio cycles through. So again, we couldn't do this without funding from Northwest utilities, and it does try to support quite a few audiences, really. It works out great so far, but as somebody who has really worked in the marketing comms field primarily over the years, you can't be everything to everybody. So we want to stay somewhat focused on a concerted group of audiences. And these are the folks that we primarily aim to serve through education and resources about energy efficiency in commercial buildings. So property owners, or building owners, managers, facilities managers, designers, engineers, contractors, and of course, architects. They are absolutely critical. And as Damon mentioned, I get to work with the integrated design labs across the region, and they are leaders in this field. But we're honored to do that. Some of the solutions we have currently, again, I referenced a portfolio of technologies, which are essentially our programs. These are the primary ones that you can find on BetterBricks right now. We have extended motor products, lighting, HVAC, even at the behavioral side, which we'll talk a little bit today around strategic energy management. So thinking, planning, executing that stuff in your building. All these are hyperlinked. I assume we'll make this slide deck available if that's something that the Dylan can get out to the group. And these have links to all these various energy solutions directly on betterbricks.com. So a lot of these resources, again, I keep referring to the website, betterbricks.com. This is where you can find everything. So, when we initially came up as a topic here, which I'm very grateful for, I was lamenting some of the tools that we've had in the past, like our Spark tool that really did an interesting analysis on building information or energy use information, and paired that with a financial analysis that NEEA created through its existing building renewal program many years ago. We have since stopped supporting that about a year and a half, 2 years ago, and that would have been a killer tool. And so I'm kind of lamenting these very smart folks on the call that do a lot of technical analysis. What can we offer you all? And that's something we're exploring in the market right now, see what tools and resources are needed. But where we do have a strong presence is in the case making, the qualitative side, the engagement side, the business case, if you will. And so that's what we have really prevalent right now on BetterBricks.com. We have a lot of great case studies for pretty much all of these technologies, a lot of good content through articles and blogs. We have videos, a channel on YouTube, which I'll cover shortly. A lot of white papers, which might be of interest, design guides. So again, there is some best practice in design and planning and scoping out system, or speccing them rather, but also how to talk about these technologies and what are the benefits, what the value proposition. All of that is available on betterbricks.com as well. And if there is something that we don't have that you're looking for, again, we're always looking for how can we best support the market. Please let us know. So some other ways to stay in touch beyond the website, we do have a small presence on LinkedIn, which is ramping up a little bit. That seems to be getting some attention. We're trying to do a better job sharing out some of our work and news on LinkedIn. YouTube, we do have a bunch of great educational videos there. I'm sure some of you know Kevin there on the screen. We need one of Damon soon. And then, of course, we have our newsletter, and that can that can be found on betterbricks.com. You can sign up for that if you aren't already getting that and see what we have going on any given month. I think they're monthly. So to collaborate with us, again, a lot of what NEEA does is pilot and test and really check out these technologies. We do work with the labs very closely to do a lot of that work, actually. So sign up for that newsletter. You'll hear about some of this stuff. We're constantly doing market research in various different ways, and we're always looking for people to participate in that when they are a good fit for that particular research project. We love to highlight partners and people doing great work out there. So if you have a cool project that you want to share, you think's a great fit, you want, maybe you don't want the world to know about your work in that regard, but if you're doing good work, we want the world to know about your work. So please let us know, and we'd love to work with you and see how we can highlight your project and the great efforts that everybody's doing. info@betterbricks.com. You can give us that feedback and ask questions there. There is a contact page on the website as well. So, and of course, you have my direct contact information. Reach out to me anytime. So that's a little bit of NEEA, a little bit of BetterBricks. Let's dive into some of the meat here. I'm going to turn this over to Suzi Asmus to talk a little bit about our strategic energy management work, and then we'll dive into one of the tools that we do have. Suzi, are you ready to take over?
Yes. Excuse me. My voice isn't apparently. I was trying to do all my voice clearing while I was on mute, but I guess I was unsuccessful. All right. Hi, everybody. Thanks for having us. So I'm Suzi Asmus, and my primary role for most of my almost 9 years at NEEA has been in residential HVAC, and we're primarily focused on heat pumps in residential applications. My secondary role at NEEA for the past 3.5 years has been managing the Alliance's strategic energy management tools and resources, which I'll give you just a high level taste of today. And then we will have Stephen walk you through one of them, but I just wanted to say I'm really jealous of this physical tool library that you all have access to through the lab. That's really cool. So, all right, next slide, please. Great. So as Josh mentioned, BetterBricks hosts a trove of really great resources. Included in those are the strategic energy management resources. And they have, as far as strategic energy management goes, you can click into this section here. We have our primary tools that are linked also on the slide. So when we send out the slides, you can have these direct links to them. It's the energy talk cards, our online courses, and our energy management tool. But there are other resources. We have white papers and case studies and those types of things that relate to strategic energy management. And these resources are actually a subset of the wider set of SEM specific resources that NEEA manages, which are really primarily managed through a sister website, which is semhub.com. And that because this BetterBricks website is really focused on the trades and practitioners, the semhub.com website is really geared towards the audience of utility program managers and their program implementers. But because of that, it's more kind of behind the scenes evaluation, delivery, that kind of material that you would find on semhub.com. So if you link out to the Energy Talk cards or the online courses, they also might take you to semhub.com, just so you know where you are when that happens. And within, so the most valuable resource, the Energy Talk cards, if you want to go ahead and advance to the next slide. All right. I did try to do some homework on this group, and it seems that these might be not as technical as you all are looking for, but just so you know that these resources do exist. The first tool is the on-demand SEM training courses up in the upper left-hand. There are about 23 courses which are designed to teach practitioners who are primarily new to SEM, and the plan, do, check, act process for continuous energy management and continuous improvement. And they give specific examples. We try really hard in each of these to give specific examples that are focused on both industrial and commercial buildings, to make sure that if someone comes to these from either side, that they have some good content for themselves and that they can take back. Some of the examples of courses that we have are how to perform an energy audit, how to get and record energy data, how to build an energy team, and how to improve through operations and maintenance. So again, these are really focused on building managers, facility managers who are taking up and learning how to manage their spaces with using SEM best practices. The next resource is the Energy Talk cards in the bottom left here. These are primarily a physical set of cards that utilities really, they like to provide to their site managers and those site team leads or energy champions who are, yeah, if you can go back. Yeah, there you go, yeah. Who are part of the building operations teams. These cards are broken into chapters and topics like interior or exterior lighting, building automation, HVAC controls, server rooms, those types of subtopics. And on one side of the card is a question about a best practice or basic knowledge that would be helpful for them in managing their energy. And on the reverse side is an answer to that question, and then some discussion questions. So the idea is that these teams can explore these topics together at their morning team meeting or something like that, if they've got energy champions to improve their knowledge and work together. And then the last one on here is just the energy management assessment tool, which we're going to dig into today. This was, just to give you some context for this, this was developed as a tool for utilities and their energy coaches to use alongside their customers, so their building or facility staff of their customer sites. And by going through this assessment process together, they can understand the site's current energy management practices, and then the goal is to also identify low or no cost opportunities to reduce the energy bill, and then identify next steps for executing an energy management program. What we have heard from the energy coaches who use this tool is that one of the most valuable aspects of this process is not necessarily even the report or the checklist that results, which you'll see when Stephen demonstrates it, but the conversation and the insights gleaned through the assessment process that really more deeply informs the utility and the site for what the opportunities are for the utility to support their SEM program and how to engage with the building staff. So it's a really robust tool for these discussions and for this coaching. Next slide, please.
And I apologize, I had an errant mouse wheel scroll. I'm sorry about that.
So I'm not sure, does this group do anything in residential, or are you all primarily commercial buildings?
We primarily focus on the commercial building side.
Okay, so I will just say really quickly, and I won't spend much more time on this. This is another tool that NEEA hosts on our residential facing site that is betterbuiltnorthwest.org or .com. And it is a sizing tool for residential HVAC. So it's a very robust tool. It's free to use. But that is one of the other tools we're really proud of and excited about. But let's move along to demonstrating the energy management assessment tool. And I will hand it over to Stephen O'Gwynn.
Hey everyone, thank you, Susie. My name is Stephen O'Gwynn. I'm going to be sharing my screen and walking us through how to get to this energy management assessment tool, and then just showing you sort of the nuts and bolts of how it works. I know people will be disappointed when I say we're not going to do the full 1 hour, 60 questions together, but I will jump you in to get a taste of that. So, and before I get started, my name is Stephen O'Gwynn. I am a program coordinator here at NEEA, and I support our commercial and residential HVAC programs. And I also support Susie on our strategic energy management work. So just bear with me for one moment while I select my screen.
Hey, Stephen, while
Go
you're
for it.
I just wanted to stop. I realized we breezed through a lot, and the tool is going to be yet another chunk of information to dive into. Did anybody have any questions on what BetterBricks is, NEEA, or what Susie shared about strategic energy management? Okay, great, appreciate it.
Oh, I love the room view.
Yeah, that is
Hi, everybody.
helpful. Hey. Yeah, great. So let me pull my screen back up, and feel free to interrupt throughout this process as I show certain elements or pages of the tool. I'd be happy to stop and answer questions, and anyone just jump in and interrupt me. But yeah, let me load it up here. So here we go. Can everyone see that?
Looks
Yep.
good to me.
All
Yeah,
right.
I can see it.
So this is just to show you, if you were navigating through BetterBricks, that website, if you searched energy management assessment or EMA, this is the card or the resource that would pull up. And to get to the actual tool, you would just follow the link that would, as Susie mentioned, transfer you to our sister site, the Semhub site. And I've preloaded some tabs up top, so I'm not going to actually click the links, but rather just navigate through those open tabs. And that link takes you to the tools landing page here. If you didn't have an account already, it would prompt you to create one or log in. And this page just has an overview of what the tool is. It's an assessment that's designed to help energy coaches and organizations in the wild identify opportunities to improve their strategic energy management practices. And there's an overview of how it works here. There is also some really cool resources that you can take a sample assessment that kind of gets you familiar with the mechanics, and there's a quick start guide for getting started. But when you have an account, or typically how this works is an utility that has a commercial or industrial program will have some SEM coaches that will identify sites that are participating in their program, and the coach will have a dashboard just like this. And the dashboard shows all of the previous reports that coach has done. So you get to collect historic data on specific sites. So if you visit the same organization once every year, you get to see how they're improving. And this, I mean, these go back, this is my page, and most of these are tests or, strange characters, because I do a lot of testing when there are issues that arise. But a real site would have the company's name, the site location name, the date, and you're able to anything older than 90 days, you can still access and view. It's archived, but the anything within 90 days, you're able to edit. And so coaches will have this data available and be able to share progress over time with a specific site. Yeah, one thing to note, you also, an individual organization could access this site and create their own account and do their own process. But as Susie noted, the Semhub resource is typically utility facing for them to provide tools directly to them to implement with their own programs. At the top here is this ready to start a new assessment. So if you clicked it, it's going to take us to the first part of the assessment. The assessment is broken out into 3 different sections. One is the site information page, which we're on now, which just collects some general facility and contact information. We'll get to the second part, which is the actual assessment. And then that assessment results in a report that can be downloaded and saved to show that site's progress. Okay, so this session page, and just note, this is a pre-made example that I created. So this would all obviously be blank, but the session page starts with the facilitator, if it's being facilitated or not. So if a utility SEM coach is there present and their contact information, then you can add who from the site is attending. So typically those people would include site managers, finance managers, potentially operations people, maintenance engineers, maintenance managers, procurement and facility managers. Basically anyone that plays a role in the decision-making and implementation of energy management policies at a specific site for an organization. And then we kind of get into some more of the basic contact information. What is the organization's name? What type of organization are they? There's a whole list of different types of commercial and industrial business types. The specific site name that the assessment is occurring at. So if it's a chain or something, they can identify if they're in the downtown location or the east side location or whatever. And then this bottom section is for the SEM coach to ask the site staff who's present, who their utility is, and these are all Northwest utilities, and then also if they want their information shared with their program administrator. So when you, that's kind of it, pretty straightforward. Any questions here? I'll pause for a moment and take a sip of water. All right, just jump in if anything comes up or you see something that you want to know more about. So once we get that site information populated, then we start the assessment. And when you click this button, it will jump you in to the beginning of the assessment at question number 1. And how this tool is designed is there are 12 components of energy management. This one is called management commitment, and each component is broken out into 5 levels. And each level has between 1 question and up to 3, I believe. And you answer either definitely or needs improvement. It's just a binary question set. And you can also put notes in here as well for how well you're doing or what's going well, and also what's not, what you need to improve. And this whole process, the energy SEM coach will, takes an hour up to an hour and a half, depending on the site's familiarity with their SEM practices, and it varies, but there is about 60 levels or questions essentially that have to get answered. And this tool will keep you in this component, this management commitment, progressing through the levels until you answer needs improvement. Once you answer something needs improvement and you say, we got to get better, it'll kick you out of that component and move you on to advance you to the next one. So now we're in the resources component, level 1. And so that continues. I'm going to pretend I've already done this assessment so you can see the other 12 components here: resources, energy review, etc. So we'll jump to the last one here and hop in here. So the implementer will work with the team to answer all of those
Stephen, if I can
questions. Yeah, go for it.
Interject. A question I have is, what's the level of detail people are expected to enter regarding the data? Like how much data, and I guess how fine tuned does the data need to be, or can it just be like general broad strokes?
When you say the data, are you talking about for the notes or what? specifically?
Just like, is there any utility data that needs to be uploaded, or building square footage, or
Oh, no,
lighting profile, or anything like
No.
anything technical, I guess?
no. What you saw in this site information is the most in-depth that it gets. So there's not any specific, I don't know how the program implementers, I'm sure that this is like companion to some of the work that the SEM coaches and program administrators do. So I'm sure that there is some transfer or data collection at that level, but not within this tool.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, I imagine a utility or program administrator will collect that site-specific information as part of approving, or they typically sometimes do cohorts where they have a call for people that want to participate in it, and so I'm sure they collect some of that at that phase.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
Yep. So we're at the last component here, level 2. I'm going to just answer yes, and I think we will kick it out here. We'll say this one needs improvement, and since we're in the last component, it'll generate the report for us here. All right. So the EMA report for our Opal test site it populates some of the contact information that we put in at the very beginning, and then you have options to download the report, download it in a CSV, or go back and edit if you see something is wrong. The downloaded report is essentially a PDF of just this web page here. I think I have it open. Yeah, it's just a PDF of the web page. So what you're seeing on this page here is is what will be in that report, and then the CSV is a Excel file that captures certain key information, the facilitator's email, who was in attendance, and then some of these next action steps. And I didn't fill this, and then the notes. It also captures the notes that we hand wrote in. For this example, I only did 4 notes because it's a test. It's not a real one, but every question up to those 5 levels and 5 levels across 12 components, there could be 60 rows of the notes captured in here. And let's talk about the anatomy of this report here. So scrolling down in this executive summary, the assessment pops out a score and says 32%. How we arrived at 32% is basically those 12 components, each having 5 levels. Each of those, you get points for every level that you answer definitely on, and then it stops calculating, and you get zeros for anything after needs improvement. So for instance, if in the first component we answered definitely for level 1 and then needs improvement for level 2, that would only score 1 point, because level 2, 3, 4, and 5 didn't get levels 3, 4, and 5 didn't get answered because it stopped you at level 2, which also scored a 0 because it was answered negatively. And the levels I should have mentioned this earlier, but they do progress in like detail and specificity. So level 1 is intended to be it's the lowest hanging fruit as you progress within a component category. It's also important to note that, like Susie mentioned, the score that gets put out by this isn't tied to anything outside of this tool. So it's really only its best use is to compare to yourself or your site over time. So if we did this assessment last year and we got a 15%, and we did it this year and we got a 32, we can show some improvement, but it doesn't tie to anything outside of the tool. And how we hear it's being used is people just want to see that number go up. They don't like the 32 specifically, or any specific number doesn't really matter. It's more of the progress, and the tool's real value is in what conversations are had during the assessment, and then also looking at some of the other data, which we'll get to. And then there's this chart here that shows different levels of your energy management process. You can see the definitions of what each level indicates. It's a progression basically from 0 being here to engaged, systematic, sustaining, etc. And it shows each of these bars is a 20% score increase. So the average sort of practice for a building that is doing barely anything or nothing is going to be between 0 and 20%. And so that's sort of the baseline that you can see how your site is comparing to someone doing nothing or up to the, just the bare minimum, essentially. The report also shows the visual in two different ways, this spider graph or radar, and then a bar chart. And this is where the real value kind of comes in. It shows the 12 components, it defines them and describes them here. And then it shows you each of these, each radar line radiating from the center is level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4, level 5. So it shows you where you missed. So resources, this site example is doing really good. They've got all 5. They're doing perfect in that category, so to speak, and they're doing great on this side, but they have significant area to improve in all of these components here. And then, of course, in this one as well, management commitment, they were derailed early on and either didn't get to level 1 or were, they didn't, it was I put needs improvement for level 1 for all of these. And that's really where the conversation between the coach and the site and the site participants themselves can compare what they think they're doing and how they think they're doing to how they answer the assessment and how that data or how the results are being visualized. So some people are shocked that they think they're doing great and they get here and say, wow, we have so much more of this chart to cover, or so much more opportunity to improve our energy management processes. And then based on that, the report takes the top 10 most, the 10 worst scoring components and kicks out an action plan. So it's going to have the ones that basically these two are excluded: resources, energy analysis. And you can toggle the notes on from that we captured on the question that we missed, and then it gives you a recommendation on how you can improve that the score in that component. You can enter who is responsible at the site and when they need to get it done by, and it shows up a little calendar here to populate. And then you can export this and share it with the site. But it you can save it, and then you have this here to reference later. So that's pretty much that's the whole tool, the site information, the actual assessment, and then here's the report. And I didn't fill out any of the implementation plan, but it gets populated in this report here. So yeah, I'll pause now and open it up for any questions or anything anyone would like to go look at.
Yeah, this is Josh. I'll jump in. Just to respond to Dylan's question about some of the site data and usage there. Yeah, as Suzi mentioned, I think this leads to those kind of opportunities, and that's really the intention of this tool, is to sit down and start that conversation with a facility manager, somebody managing energy policy and use at a given site, so that they can be part of the conversation and really see firsthand. And it's actually self-assessed, as you saw through this. It's how do they gauge where they are in strategic energy management concepts across these categories. And so I think the next steps would be dependent on the utility program and the program administrator, whoever the energy coach is there with them, depending on their strengths and weaknesses, where they're focused, where they aren't. That's when they might start gathering some technical data and figuring out what can be done to improve. So this in and of itself is about those business practices and how are you thinking about that in your facility, and that can lead to plan for capital improvements and actually swapping stuff out. So
Yeah, you're spot on, Josh. A SEM coach or implementer will take this report and usually write up a companion. These are sort of generic recommendations, but having that conversation with the site, they're able to identify and write up real-time recommendations to identify those next steps. And this assessment it provides sort of an input for that process. Yeah.
And while those are, I know what you mean by generic, but they are based on where the site is in their journey in the given category. So, as you improve, even if there's more room for improvement, the recommendations will change to adapt to continually push to the next level of best practice in energy management in the given in its given area.
Yeah. I just meant, and also in the notes, you're able to you could write in, hey, we're going to start with the, boiler room. This recommendation isn't going to give you that site specific knowledge. So great clarification. All right. That's it for me. Anyone want to see anything else?
Are there, it's Dylan again, sorry.
Yep.
Are there any plans to link this tool to other tools in the industry, such as like Energy Star or the IAA 2030 reporting, or any of the other more detailed trackers?
We're talking with LBNL and DOE about the possibility of them referencing this tool or linking to this tool alongside in their 50,001 ready. I don't know if it's a library or I don't know what to call it, but they do have also resources through their 50,001 ready program. And they are trying to bolster up their like resource library there. And so they might be in the future either pointing to this or housing it or something like that. That's one possibility. Another one is just the North American SEM Collaborative also has a site that they might be pointing to this. But other than that, no, we are not really in conversation with anyone about, integrating it into other tools.
Yeah, and Dylan, was your question kind of about some sort of data integration API kind of thing, or was it
more just a way to kind of like link, because it seems like this is step one.
Yeah.
And then the Energy Star tool, is either middle of the road or, end, and we're documenting anything. Same with the DDX from AIA 2030. It's more of just reporting at the end goal. So I was wondering if there's plans to kind of connect with this is like a really good starting point to all the way through to the end. And so they can come back again to the starting point and begin again. So like you said, if you take it again, you can push yourself further, you can get to the further levels, and you can just keep on going, rinse and repeat, so to speak.
Oh, that's interesting. No, we have not actually thought about that. I'm curious if possibly the coaches do that work with them, or if the utility programs point people down those other paths. I'm not sure.
Yeah,
Is there a database or a guide on where to find SEM coaches, or how do people get in touch with the SEM coaches?
I do not have that. That's a really great
question.
Great question.
These are fascinating questions, and I really appreciate it.
They're great ideas. We're always looking for ideas too. So these are, I'm gonna
it's
note
so interesting because, as Susie pointed out, I was part of developing this original tool, and again, I was working with real experts in strategic energy management. That isn't me, but it was so focused on being a resource primarily for utilities to use to create SEM programs if they don't have them, to start them up, and to just as a tool to help make them more efficient and effective from just having a centralized tool for utilities that do have SEM programs already before we launch this thing. And so that's where the mindset was a lot less about where else in the market can we plug this in, because at the time, at least, it was really up to the utilities to do with this what they wanted, how they best saw it fit into their own SEM programs. So I must say it's not something that I hadn't put much thought into, frankly. But I do want to reiterate, I think you're absolutely spot on that I hope this, I would see this more as a tool, that initial engagement that hopefully leads to projects that require more analysis in the skill sets of those that are in the room today. And you know, I don't know, Stephen, you mentioned this briefly. I think we kind of covered it, but I thought it was very cool. This can be adapted by organization. So this is able to be white labeled with different brands. In fact, Stephen, if you want to /GCCA up there in the URL. So again, if a utility wanted to launch a program, they can take this and they can actually just apply their own branding, and then they can do some of their own customizations based on their program in their area to the questions. We've tried to keep it as consistent as possible. It's not something we want to get away from, because that's the whole point, is we want to have like comparisons across the Northwest. But an organization that want to adapt this and use this, if it's part of a, you know, somebody's business model, we built this so that it can be subdivided into its own kind of section and apply your own branding and some customizations. I don't want to overblow that capability, but I thought that was worth making sure that everybody was aware. What Stephen went earlier when you kind of referenced the ability to do that.
Yeah, great point. Sorry, I totally, yeah. We have a few of them custom branded.
Okay, thank you.
One question that I've got, this is Dan Woods in the room. For the clients this is being applied to, are you looking for an individual facility, or are you looking for a strategic energy manager for a group of facilities? Like, is this one school or a school district, like one county building, or a few buildings that are all managed by those? What is this kind of, what's the name?
That's a good question. And I don't know, Stephen, you can jump in too, but I think primarily it's best used per site. But I do think it's open to use however the coach feels is the, you know, most appropriate approach, or what works for the client or the customer. But I think it's so there are a lot of questions that have to do with what kind of support you have through the organization to build a team and to gather data and that kind of thing. There's a lot of questions about what the capabilities are in your team. And all of those can be applied if you are a team that that manages multiple buildings or a campus or that kind of thing. So there's certainly aspects of it that are applicable over, you know, more than one building or a fleet of buildings. But some of it, I think, would be, you know, would work better if it were fine-tuned to just one building. So I think a coach can pick and choose and approach it the way that feels best for that team. So I would say either one, if that's helpful.
I think it was, and again, Stephen, jump in. Stephen's been hands-on with the tool a lot more than Suzi and I have lately.
Right.
It's a couple years old. I think it was designed largely to be used. Each assessment is assigned to a specific site. That was the original intention. And an energy coach may have, like a school district, for example, they'll have a bunch of entries with each given school, because I mean, I think it depends. To Suzi's point, like if it's the same people and they're doing the same thing across their sites, yeah, you could technically do one assessment. But I think in reality, in practice, you know, there's different facility managers, different budgets per building. And so it is designed for one assessment per site. And in the back end, when you're a coach, you can kind of manage those and, you know, have different assessments kind of grouped together that kind of are a little bit higher level from an organizational standpoint. Stephen, sound accurate to you?
Yeah, and yes, that does. It is for site, but like a school district can participate in this as an entity as a whole, and then do individual sites for their schools. And some program administrators or utilities offer incentives for doing SEM improvements and use this as one of their tools to help track progress. It's not the only tool, and I don't know if it's even a requirement for the incentive, but so a school district could benefit from signing up as an entity, doing these individual assessments, or having each individual school, or even, I think it's school, like a site, it could be multiple buildings, but be eligible for incentives at the individual site level.
Appreciate the questions.
Mhm.
I gotta love the whole architects versus engineers chat comment. Little sibling rivalry kind of thing going on there. That's great.
Are there any questions from the online audience? Feel free to unmute yourself and chime in. Okay, well, any more questions? If not, I think we'll call it a day. Thank you very much.
Great.
Oh, another question.
Oh, sorry, we got one more.
Yeah, folks, which Northwest utilities have you guys ran the EMA tool with so far? If any come to mind.
Sounds like a Suzi response.
Well, if I have to look that up, I don't remember.
Okay.
I think Energy Trust,
Yeah,
I think
it's
is one, and
Energy Trust, Clark Public Utilities, and Tacoma Power.
thanks, Stephen.
Okay, thanks.
Appreciate it.
All right, well, thank you
Great,
very
thank
much.
you, everyone.
Appreciate your time and showing us all the nice tools and resources you have.
Thanks for
Definitely
having
be
us.
using some of them.
And if you guys have any ideas, you're hearing something in the market that we can help with, and we're joking about architects and engineers, and supporting engineers a lot more closely is something that we're very interested in. We have great relationships with architects, and I'd love to improve our work with engineers and understanding there and our support. So reach out if you guys need anything. We really appreciate it, and have a great day.
Yeah, next time we'll show up for lunch.
Yeah,
Well, we'll definitely be happy to host you.
Take it easy, everyone.
All right,
Bye.
thank you.
Bye.